The eternal soul neither takes birth nor dies, has not, does not, and will not come into being at any time, and is not destroyed when the body is destroyed. One should not stop fighting a just war for the fear of killing a body which is anyway mortal and temporary, knowing very well that the indestructible soul does not get killed at any time. You have only a right to perform your prescribed duty, but never to the fruits of your action. Never get attached to the results and thereby abandon your duties. Only when a person gives up all sensual desires and devotes himself to the service of the Lord with a pure mind, he attains self-realization and divine consciousness. Sensory desires lead to attachment. Attachment leads to lust. Lust leads to anger. Anger leads to delusion. Delusion leads mental disturbance, which leads to loss of wisdom, which finally leads to one's downfall. The desire for material gratifications would be so strong that even the noblest of persons could get distracted, just as a boat on a river can be swept away by strong wind. And only a divine conscious person who is not disturbed by such distractions can attain ultimate peace and liberation. Only a person who has given up all material desires and lives without a sense of entitlement and false ego can attain ultimate peace. We need to indulge in the basic material pursuits to provide for the necessities and comforts of our family, and cannot be a sannyasi or monk forsaking everything. While pursuing our duties on the material side in a righteous way, we must also devote ourselves to the service of the Supreme Divine to attain self-realization, divine consciousness, and ultimate peace and liberation. A self-centric person driven by false ego is under the illusion that he himself causes all activities, whereas in reality they occur as part of material nature's activities by the grace of the Supreme Lord. We also have a responsibility to guide other humans not to abandon their rightful duties in the material world, but to perform them without any expectations or attachments and in true devotional spirit. For a more lucid and simple explanation, along with its contemporary relevance, you can refer The Essence of Bhagavad Gita, the book authored by Ganesh Rao, available for you to purchase on Amazon. When the senses, the mind, and the intelligence become the repositories of lust, it corrupts the real knowledge and bewilders the embodied soul. While the senses are powerful, the mind is superior to the senses. Intelligence is even superior to the mind, but ultimately the soul is superior even to the intelligence. Uncontrollable lust for sensory desires corrupts the mind and finally conquers the individual soul itself. The Supreme Lord shall manifest whenever and wherever there is a decline in righteousness and predominance of evil and impropriety. This manifestation shall happen era after era to save and protect the pious and devoted, and to annihilate and vanquish the evildoers, and thus re-establish and uphold the principles of righteousness. A person with full transcendental knowledge can see inaction in action and action in inaction, even while being engaged in other activities. Only those who attain full transcendental knowledge can understand the fine distinction between righteous action, inaction, and perverted action. One is said to attain full transcendental knowledge when he performs all his duties, both material and devotional, devoid of any desire for sensory gratification, and with his mind and intelligence in full control. One does not get affected by the outcome of his actions if he is satisfied with whatever benefits that come on their own, not affected by duality of the material world. does not envy others, and is steady in both success and failure. Transcendental realization can be obtained by control of the senses, the mind, and intelligence through different modes of sacrifice. Even the most sinful of all sinners will be able to cross the ocean of miseries when the person is in the boat of transcendental knowledge. All modes of sacrifice, such as charity, sannyasi, yogic meditation, and spirituality, ultimately culminate in transcendental realization, liberating us from all the sins of our material activities. For a more lucid and simple explanation, along with its contemporary relevance, you can refer the Essence of Bhagavad Gita, the book authored by Ganesh Rao, available for you to purchase on Amazon. Those who have no knowledge and faith and doubt the power of the Supreme Divine shall perish and find no happiness either in this world or in the next. Those who do not have this knowledge of faith in the preachings and powers of the Lord shall ultimately meet their downfall. One who is engaged in devotional service with pure mind, self-control over his senses, and compassion to everyone is not bound by material bondage, even while being engaged in his material duties. Performing karma yoga and bhakti yoga, which means performing one's duties along with devotional service, is far better than merely renouncing everything when the mind is impure and not in control. One with full divine consciousness, who knows the truth that everything happens at the behest of the Lord, remains aloof and unaffected by the actions of his material senses, be it seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, eating, moving, dreaming, breathing, talking, giving, receiving, opening, and closing. A self-realized person with full divine consciousness gets neither excited with pleasant outcomes nor agitated with unpleasant outcomes, and is always unbewildered and of a steady mind. Just like the rising sun dispels darkness and lights up everything, a learned person enlightened with full divine knowledge is devoid of any confusion in his mind, is at complete peace with himself, and works for the welfare of all living beings, treating everyone equally. Those who are free from all sensory desires and anger, who are self-disciplined with full control over their mind, are assured of liberation in the Supreme. A learned person with full self-realization is not distracted by the urge of material pleasures and always enjoys inward happiness within himself. For a more lucid and simple explanation, along with its contemporary relevance, you can refer the Essence of Bhagavad Gita, the book authored by Ganesh Rao, available for you to purchase on Amazon. One who realizes that the Lord is the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and also the benefactor and well-wisher of all living beings shall attain peace and liberation from all material miseries. Even while following karma yoga and being engaged in the material world in a regulated way, one can still attain liberation if one has full faith that the Supreme Soul, which is the Paramatma, is the master of the whole universe, and the individual souls, which is the Jivatma, are just a tiny spark and merely his servants. For one who has attained tranquility by conquering his mind and thus attained the Supreme Soul, cold or heat, happiness or misery, respect or disrespect, all are the same. In order to attain that state of a steady, pure and tranquil mind, the yogi has to observe dhyana, which means prayer with full concentration. By cutting off all material thoughts and activities. For one who has conquered his mind, the mind is his best friend. But for one who has failed to do so, the very mind becomes his greatest enemy. True renunciation means renouncing all attachments to the fruits of our duties and having full control on our sensory desires. Only in the advanced stages of spiritual realization, a truly elevated yogi practices full renunciation, which includes giving up all material duties and activities too. A true yogi can mitigate all his material miseries if he is regulated and disciplined in his habits of eating, work, pleasure, sleep, or wakefulness. When the yogi reaches the state of divine consciousness, he attains the highest state of perfect happiness, free from all material miseries and reactions to his past sinful deeds. A self-realized yogi sees the Supreme Soul in all beings everywhere and also sees every being in the Supreme Soul. Such a devoted but unfulfilled yogi is reborn into the company of pious and righteous people and revives the divine consciousness of his previous life with continued rigid practice and ultimately attains the supreme realization and liberation after several births. Of all the yogis, the one who always abides in the Lord with great faith and places the Lord within himself, rendering loving devotional service to the Lord, is considered by the Lord as the greatest and closest to the Lord. Attaining the ultimate divine realization through Bhakti Yoga is the final ladder in the path beginning with Karma Yoga, followed by Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and finally Bhakti Yoga, the ultimate effort to be one with the Supreme Soul. For a more lucid and simple explanation, along with its contemporary relevance, you can refer The Essence of Bhagavad Gita, the book authored by Ganesh Rao, available for you to purchase on Amazon.